If you've been told that your labs are fine, but you still wake up exhausted, struggle with brain fog, or have zero resilience by 3 p.m. and are gaining weight, the problem isn't you. It might be your mitochondria, and they're stuck in defense mode. Here's the deal. Your mitochondria, the little power plants inside of our cells, don't just make energy, they decide whether it's safe to make energy. And right now, the way most of us live is sending a constant signal that the world is on fire. So your mitochondria shift from creation mode into defense mode. That's when the fatigue stops being about willpower and powering through and starts being about biology misreading your environment. I work with patients every day who have been told things like, your thyroid's fine, your hormones are good, your iron is okay, B12 is just right, but they still can't think clearly, can't recover, and they can't make it a day without caffeine or really sheer determination. I'm Dr. Kenny, root cause health detective and IFM certified functional medicine practitioner, and here's why you're likely stuck. Regular labs don't test for mitochondrial function at the cellular level. They don't measure whether your cells feel safe enough to produce energy. They just confirm that you're not dying, but you're definitely not thriving in many of these circumstances. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 daily mismatches that quietly flip your mitochondria into defense mode. And we'll discuss the simple levers you can pull to help bring them back online. Because once your mitochondria get the signal that it's safe to create again, like all creators, everything changes: your energy, your mood, your focus, and most importantly, your resilience. And if this topic is already landing for you, tap that like button. It helps me reach more people who are tired of being told that their labs are normal, but they definitely don't feel normal, and maybe their mitochondria are begging for some attention. All right, so let's start with what mitochondria actually do. Now, mitochondria aren't just the powerhouses of the cell. That's what we all learned in high school, and I nerded about them then too. But it's incomplete. Mitochondria are the decision makers in many ways. They sense your environment, things like stress, nutrients, light, and decide whether or not to make energy. And they also guide other processes, defending against immune threats or initiating repair and rebuilding. Think of them as a thermostat in the body. When your environment signals the safety and abundance, they ramp up your energy production. When your environment signals danger or scarcity, they downshift into conservation mode. This results in less ATP. This is the energy currency that all of our cells use. But it's not a malfunction. It's an adaptation to very real inputs the mitochondria are receiving. And that's the levers that we can pull. More on that in a second. More on that later. Your mitochondria are doing their job. The problem is with the signals that we're sending them. And here's the key. Mitochondria, they communicate with every other system, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, and your immune system. They're constantly translating every signal you send, whether it's what you eat or how you sleep or what you think, into a cellular decision about whether it's safe to create energy or time to conserve and defend. So let's talk about 3 modern mismatches that are keeping your mitochondria stuck in this mode. The first mismatch is light and circadian rhythm. We are bioenergetic beings. Your mitochondria operate on a 24-hour time clock. They're designed to produce the most ATP during the daylight hours when you're active. But most of us don't see sunlight in the mornings. Oftentimes it's an artificial light indoors. We stare at screens all day, and then by the time nighttime rolls around, we've got blue light blasting us in the face when we wind down with television. That scrambles the signal to the mitochondria. A recent review in 2023 looked at how exercise and circadian rhythm align. It found that both moderate exercise and morning sunlight exposure improves your mitochondrial content and the efficiency of those mitochondria as well. It does this through a pathway called the PGC1 alpha pathway. Dense, but that's the master regulator that tells your body to build more mitochondria and make them work better. So what this means for you is that morning light isn't just something that's nice to have, It's a metabolic signal, so if you are experiencing metabolic or energy roadblocks, try to get outside within the first hour of waking, even 10 minutes, and aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality, consistent sleep, going to bed at the same time every night if you're able to. Your mitochondria need that rhythm to know when to produce energy and when to repair. So ultimately, your mitochondria are waiting for your body to tell them what time it is. When you give them the clear signals, they respond accordingly. Now let's look at one of my favorite topics, how stress keeps the defense mode switch flipped on. The second mismatch is around sustained chronic stress chemistry. And I'm not just talking about how you feel. I'm talking about what elevates cortisol even outside of our emotional experiences. They send signals to your mitochondria. When your stress system stays activated for weeks or months, your body thinks that you're in a long-term state of danger. Cortisol signals to your mitochondria to downshift energy production. You produce less of things like your active thyroid hormone. Your cells become less sensitive to insulin. Your mitochondria shift into this conservation mode. It's no wonder people feel fatigue, like they've hit a wall in all of these ways because of the impacts of chronic stress on these incredibly powerful and important chemistry systems. Chronic stress impairs mitochondrial respiration and increases oxidative damage, or basically that cellular rusting or aging process in humans. And we're not even talking about the psychology part here, although it is important. These pieces are measurable. This is cell biology. Your mitochondria are reading chemical signals from the erratic sleep, from overtraining or undertraining, under fueling, skipping meals when we don't have a good set point, and chronic uncertainty and negative self-talk. The list goes on. And they're responding by lowering the output to conserve resources. So the big takeaway here is that stress chemistry, not just stress thinking, changes whether your mitochondria feel safe enough to create or not. Now, before we move on to the third mismatch, I want to leave you with something. I've pulled together some of the studies that I've talked about in this video into a short research summary. It's a freebie you can download, and it's short, digestible bits about these research articles with the references if you're one who really likes diving in. So grab it. It's in the description and the pinned comment below. Now let's talk about the third mismatch. I'm going to call this movement extremes. Your mitochondria need movement to stay efficient, but there is a sweet spot, a Goldilocks principle. Moderate movement, especially around zone 2 exercise, where you can still hold a conversation while you're exercising and working, it trains your mitochondria to produce energy cleanly and efficiently. But overtraining without recovery can spike cortisol and oxidative stress and really promote that vicious cycle we've already talked about. Your mitochondria can get overwhelmed. Moderate exercise supports barrier function and mitochondrial health, while extreme endurance training can actually disrupt both. And on the flip side, too little movement and your mitochondria start to decrease their size and efficiency. Use it or lose it kind of applies here, even at the mitochondrial level. The goal is consistent, moderate movement most days. Fitness trackers can help a lot, especially when it comes to getting your steps in. But walking, biking, swimming, especially at this zone 2 level for at least 25 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week. Build in your rest days and don't punish your body. Train it to adapt and grow over time. It's not about pushing through. The big takeaway here is that your mitochondria will adapt to the signals that you send. Moderate, consistent movement says we're safe, we're capable, let's create. Extreme or absent movement says we're either attacked or abandoned. So how do you actually measure whether or not your mitochondria are stuck in defense mode? In a way, labs like TSH show some of the very far downstream effects at the mitochondrial level. But the labs that we have conventionally are designed to confirm that you're alive and you either do or don't have a diagnosis. They don't measure cellular energy production, not yet. This is where functional lab testing comes in. One of my go-to tools is something like an organic acids test. There's a variety out there, but it's basically a urine test that measures the byproducts or the footprints of the chemical reactions that are occurring inside of the mitochondria. So if we see high or low markers, this is signaling high or low potential for roadblocks that are happening in these very intricate chemical pathways. Markers like succinic acid, pyruvic acid, these tell me how efficiently your mitochondria are moving through energy production. If anyone remembers the Krebs cycle, it's that series of chemical reactions that help our cells to produce ATP. If markers are elevated, it means there's a roadblock occurring somewhere. Your mitochondria are struggling. The oat also can show things like nutrient cofactors that are involved in a process. These are the supplies that need to be present in high enough amounts for your chemistry to run smoothly. If your resources are low, your mitochondria can't do their job and repair and function, no matter how much you rest or eat well. This is one of my favorite labs to use in my root cause detective work. It's not about chasing the numbers or matching the numbers with a supplement, though, too. We're looking at the context of it in relationship to every other system in your body. It's about reading patterns and trends. The oat or organic acid test gives me a window into what your mitochondria need to shift from that defense mode into the creation mode. Now let's go through 3 levers that you can pull right now, even before any kind of testing. The first is to regulate your light and rhythm. Morning light within the first hour of waking, especially in the early hours of sunlight. A consistent sleep schedule, at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep ideally, and then dimming the lights after sunset, or perhaps switching over to red smart light bulbs. That can really help to reset your mitochondrial clock. Second is managing your stress chemistry and resilience. It's not about limiting stress. It's about learning to ride the waves of stress and morph our relationship to stressors. It's about deliberately building in rest and recovery into your days, even in our work culture who says productivity at all costs. These help to keep your cortisol at a more normal level and to signal safety to the mitochondria. I'm a big fan of psychosocial or somatic practices as well, connecting the mind and the body together because they are interconnected and perhaps underappreciated in our current paradigm. Things like breathwork, gratitude practices, psychotherapy, they have been shown to improve mitochondrial function markers as well. It's not woo-woo, this is biology. And third is to move right, not necessarily move more. Zone 2 exercise, again, is a great place to land. And then adding in strength training 2 to 3 times a week for most people is important. Those send even more concentrated signals to the mitochondria. Make sure you have rest days, you're not overtraining or undertraining, and fuel adequately so that your muscles and mitochondria have the tools they need to repair. Mitochondria are not fragile. They're adaptable, especially when given the right inputs consistently. So here's what I want you to remember if you're hitting those walls in different ways in life. Your mitochondria are not broken and they're not a static situation. They are responding 24 hours a day. When you shift the signals, even one by one, and build those daily habits from danger to safety, through light, through rhythm, through stress resilience, through nutrition and movement, they shift back into creation mode. Energy, mood, focus, resilience, your weight set point, it all follows. Small, consistent daily actions is how you flip the switch in your mitochondria. Here's a few questions that I'll probably cover in some future videos as well. But number 1 is, can I reverse mitochondrial damage? In most cases, the answer is yes. And since we didn't talk a lot about it, mitochondrial damage occurs due to varying things, but there are very known environmental and chemical toxins that can throw wrenches into the gears of your mitochondria. It becomes about very deliberate support and often using strategic lab testing to guide treatment plans to help with those kinds of roadblocks. Number 2 is, do I need the organic acids test? And with most of my questions, there's no black and white here, not always. It's one of the tests I like to go to first. It's the one that I would say I use most commonly in clinical practice, even for my maintenance patients, because it gives insight at the cellular level and becomes very actionable once we interpret the results across multiple body systems. Number three is how long does it take to feel better? It really depends on the degree of severity of insult at the cellular level. Most people do notice some meaningful changes in 2 to 4 weeks, some even right after giving the supplies that your mitochondria need to repair themselves within a few days. The spectrum is quite wide, though, too. Now that you understand how your mitochondria shift into defense mode, here's the connection most people miss. The same systems that dysregulate your mitochondria are the same ones that drive thyroid problems. If you're dealing with fatigue, hair loss, weight gain, and your thyroid labs come back normal when you go see your doctor, you need to watch my next video on why Hashimoto's isn't just a thyroid problem. It's a whole system breakdown. I'm Dr. Kenny, Root Cause Health Detective. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.